I'm strong enough. I've never been the kind to give it up, but this time I don't know.
Hello everyone and welcome to English for Always. The four March sisters going to receive some bad news from their father. What is it? Now let's watch chapter 9 and 10 of Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Let's start.
I don't know. All alone, I get along just fine with a bottle of whiskey or a cheap box of wine.
Chapter 9 Secrets. One October afternoon, Joe caught a bus into the town and stopped outside a building in one of the busy streets. She went in, looked up the stairs, and after a minute ran out again. She did this several times, and to the great amusement of a young man who were watching from the opposite side of the road. But the fourth time, Joe gave herself a shake and walked up the stairs. The young man crossed the road and waited. It was Laurie. 10 minutes later, Joe came running out, but did not look pleased to see him. "What are you doing here?" she said. "I'm waiting to walk home with you," she said. "I have a secret to tell you, but first you must tell me yours." "You won't say anything at home, will you?" said Joe. "Not a word," promised Laurie. "I left 2 of my stories with a newspaper man," said Joe, "but I'll have to wait until next week before I know if they will be printed." "Miss Maud, the famous American writer," says Laurie, throwing his hat into the air and catching it. Joe looked pleased. "Now, what's your secret?" "You remember Meg lost a glove at a picnic," says Laurie. "Well, I know where it is." "Is that all?" said Joe, looking disappointed. "Wait until I tell you where it is," he said. "Tell Miss Dan," said Joe. Laurie whispered 3 words in Joe's ear. She stared at him, looking both surprised and displeased. "How do you know?" "I saw it." "Where?" asked Joe. "Pocket." "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" "Of course not. It's stupid. What would Meg say if she knew?" "You mustn't tell anyone," says Laurie. "I didn't promise," Joe reminded him. "I thought you would be pleased," he said. "Pleased at the idea of someone coming to take Meg away?" said Joe. "No, thank you." She ran off the hill, but Laurie came after her and reached the bottom first. She came up behind him, her face red and her hair blowing in the wind. "That was fun," she said, forgetting her crossness in the enjoyment of a good run. At that moment, someone passed by, then stopped and looked back. It was Meg. "What are you doing here?" she said when she saw Joe. "You've been running, have you?" "Joe, when will you start to behave like a young lady?" "Don't make me grow up yet, Meg," said Joe, looking sad. "It's hard enough having you change so suddenly." Meg was growing into a woman, and Laurie's secret made Joe realize that Meg would leave home one day, perhaps soon. 2 Saturdays after Joe has gone secretly into town, Meg saw Laurie chasing Joe all over the garden before the 2 of them fell on the grass, laughing and waving a newspaper. "What can we do with that girl?" says Meg. "She never will behave like a young lady." Minutes later, Joe came in with a newspaper. She sat down and began to read it. "Are you reading anything interesting?" asked Meg. "Only a story," said Joe. "Read it aloud," said Amy. "It may amuse us." Joe began to read very fast, and the girls listened. It was a love story about 2 people called Viola and Angelo. And most of the characters died in the end, but the girls enjoyed it. And Meg even cried a little at the sad parts. "Who wrote it?" asked Beth, watching Joe's face. Joe put down the newspaper. I did, she said, her eyes bright and shining. You? Says Meg, surprised. It's very good, said Amy. I knew it, says Beth. She ran across and put her arms around her sister. Oh, Joe, I am so proud. And how proud Mrs. Smart was when she was told. Everyone began to speak at the same time. Tell us all about it. How much did you get for it? What will father say? Won't Laurie laugh? So Joe told them all about it, and that evening there was no happier or prouder family than the Marches.
Don't know which way to go, round and round and round again. Are we something that just needs to end this time?
Chapter 10. A Telegram. Mrs. Maud, the girls, and Laurie were sitting together on a dull November afternoon when Hannah hurried into the room with a telegram. Mrs. Maud read it, then dropped it to the floor, her face white and her hands shaking. Joe picked up the telegram and read it to the others in a frightened voice. Mrs. Maud, your husband is very ill. Come at once. Sand Hill, Blank Hospital, Washington. The girls moved close to their mother. All their happiness had disappeared in the moment. I shall go at once, said Mrs. Maud, but it may be too late. Oh, my children. For several minutes there were only the sound of crying. Then Hannah hurried away to get things ready for the long journey. Where's Laurie? Mrs. Maud asked. Here, said the boy. Oh, let me do something. Send a telegram and say that I'll come at once, said Mrs. Maud. The next train goes early in the morning. Now I must write a note to Aunt Maud. Joe, give me that pen and paper. Joe knew that the money for the journey must be borrowed from Aunt Maud, so she too wanted to do something, anything to help her father. Laurie went off to take the note to Aunt Maud and to send the telegram. Joe went to fetch some things from the shops, and Amy and Meg helped their mother to get ready. Father will need good food and wine to help him get better, and there won't be much at the hospital, said Mrs. Maud. Beth, go and ask Mr. Lawrence for a couple of bottles of wine. I'm not too proud to beg for father. Mr. Lawrence came back with Beth. He offered to go with Mrs. Maud, but she wouldn't let the old gentleman make the long, tiring journey, although he could see that she would like to have somebody with her. He went away again, saying, I'll be back. Soon after, Meg saw Mr. Brooke by the door. I'm very sorry to hear your news, Miss Maud, he said gently. Mr. Lawrence and I think it will be a good idea if I travel with your mother. How kind you all are, says Meg. It will be so good to know that there is someone to take care of mother. Thank you very much. She put out her hand and smiled gratefully up into his warm brown eyes. Laurie came back with a letter and money from Aunt Maud, but Joe did not return. It was late afternoon when she came walking in and gave her mother some money. That to help make father comfortable and to bring him home, she said. $25, says Mrs. Maud. My dear, where did you get it? Joe took off her hat. Your hair, your beautiful hair, cried Amy. Aunt Joe's lovely thick long hair was cut short. Joe, how could you? Cried Meg. My dear girl, there was no need for this, said Mrs. Maud. She doesn't look like my Joe, but I love her dearly for doing it, said Beth, and began to cry. Don't cry, Beth, said Joe. I wanted to do something for father, and selling my hair was the only thing I could think of doing. I'll soon have a curly head again, which will be short and easy to keep tidy. But later, when Amy and Beth were asleep and Meg were lying awake, she heard Joe crying. "Are you crying about Father, Joe?" she asked. "No, not now. It's my hair," cried Joe. "I'd do it again if I could, but I did love my hair, and the selfish bit of me is making me cry. Don't tell anyone. I'll be all right in the morning." During the days after their mother and Mr. Brooke went away, Meg and Joe went back to their jobs, and Beth and Amy helped Hannah to keep the house tidy. Everyone tried very hard to be good and hardworking and helpful. News of their father came through, at first telling them that he was dangerously ill, but then saying he was slowly getting better.
If I go, maybe this time.
Well, what Joe did for her father was really touching, but would father come back? Please wait until the next video to see what will happen. Please give me a like, a share and a subscribe for my channel. Thank you a lot and goodbye.
All I need